beautiful legacy. Every line, every curve leaves a trace of who we were.
Hello and welcome. You are listening to A Beautiful Legacy. I'm your host, Tiago Pinto, and this is your short moment to take a look on the people who shaped how we live, shop, work, and move. This episode takes us to London. Not all retail revolutions begin with a flagship store. Some begin in kitchens. In 1987, on the banks of the Thames in London, a modest restaurant opened inside a former oil storage building. Its name, River Café, suggested informality, almost understatement. Yet, what unfolded there would quietly reshape how Europe eats, shops, and values food. At its center was Rose Gray. Gray did not set out to influence supermarkets, delis, or food halls. She was not interested in retail strategy, supply chains, or shelf optimization, and yet, through a radical commitment to ingredients, where they came from, how they tasted, and how they were respected, she rewired the logic that underpins premium food retail across Europe today. This episode is not about celebrity chefs. It is about how philosophy migrates from plate to counter, from a restaurant to shelf. At a time when European fine dining was dominated by technique, hierarchy, and culinary theater, Rose Gray proposed something quietly subversive. Simplicity is not naive, it is demanding. The River Café's food was Italian in spirit, but British in execution. No disguises, no overworked sauces, no unnecessary flourishes. Ingredients were allowed, required actually, to stand on their own. This was not nostalgia, it was discipline. To cook this way meant knowing your suppliers intimately. It meant accepting seasonality as a constraint rather than an inconvenience. It meant building menus around what existed, not what could be imported, frozen, or engineered. What Gray and her partner Ruth Rogers established was not merely a style of cooking, it was a system of values. Ingredient integrity over manipulation, provenance over branding, taste as the ultimate proof of quality. Taste as the ultimate proof of quality. These values would later become the backbone of premium food retail, but at the time, they ran counter to industrial food logic. Rose Gray's influence did not scale through franchising, it scaled through people. The River Café became an informal academy. Its kitchen trained a generation of chefs who would go on to define contemporary food culture across the UK and later Europe. What united them was not the recipe book, but a shared mental model. Good food starts before the kitchen. From sourcing to storage, from supplier relationships to menu language, the alumni of River Café carried these principles outward into restaurants, bakeries, cafes, publishing, and eventually retail. Crucially, many of them crossed the boundary between hospitality and commerce. As these chefs became collaborating with producers, opening delis, advising food brands, or curating retail assortments, something shifted. Supermarkets and specialty stores started to reflect kitchen logic. Fewer SKUs, better chosen. Seasonal narratives replacing permanent abundance. Origin labels becoming meaningful rather than decorative. Retail began to borrow credibility from the kitchen. Perhaps Rose Gray's most radical contribution to retail culture was this one. Taste itself became a commercial value. Before this shift, premium food retail was largely about status, imported goods, luxury cues, price as signal. Gray's philosophy reframed quality not as rarity, but as a sensory truth. A tomato was not good because it came from Italy. It was good because it tasted of summer. This distinction reshaped how premium grocery categories evolved across Europe. Delis, food halls, and later supermarket private labels began emphasizing short ingredient lists, named farms and producers, simpler packaging that suggested honesty rather than opulence. The rise of ingredient-led branding, where flour, olive oil, cheese, and vegetables are heroes rather than background, can be traced back to this culinary ethos. Retail did not invent this language, it adopted it. One of Rose Gray's most enduring legacies is spatial rather than culinary. The collapse of distance between kitchen and counter. In traditional retail, food is abstracted, products are standardized, decontextualized, and flattened into units of sale. The River Café model reintroduced intimacy between producer, the cook, and the consumer. This intimacy later manifested in retail formats, open kitchens inside food halls, in-store bakeries and pasta counters, staff trained to explain sourcing, not just the price. These were not gimmicks. They were attempts to restore trust. By aligning retail space with kitchen logic, food stores began to feel less transactional and more conversational. Buying food became an act of participation rather than consumption. In this sense, Rose Gray influenced not only what we buy, but how retail makes us feel while buying it. The world we inherited from Rose Gray, the food retail landscape we inhabit today, especially in Europe, carries Rose Gray's fingerprints everywhere. We see it in the rise of premium private labels that prioritize ingredients over graphics. We see it in the credibility gap between industrial abundance and curated selection. We see it in the expectation that retailers explain where the food comes from, not just how much does it cost. Most importantly, we see it in a cultural shift. Quality is no longer defined by excess, but by restraint. This mindset has reshaped how supermarkets design shelves, how delis curate assortments, and how consumers evaluate trust. Taste, provenance, and seasonality, once confined to kitchens, are now retail currencies. Rose Gray did not build a retail empire. She built a value system that retail could not ignore. Rose Gray's legacy is not one you can trademark or franchise. It lives instead in a way of thinking, one that quietly reshaped how food is valued, chosen, and presented long before retailers learned to speak the language of provenance and integrity. She proved that systems do not always change through scale, but through consistency, that trust can be built not by multiplying offers, but by editing them, and that when taste, origin, and restraint are treated as non-negotiable principles, they inevitably migrate beyond the kitchen, into shelves, counters, and the everyday rituals of buying food. In teaching retail to slow down, to respect ingredients, and to let quality speak without exaggeration, Rose Gray left behind something rare, a legacy without logos yet impossible to erase. And that, truly, is a beautiful legacy.
Beautiful legacy. Every line, every curve leaves a trace of who we were.
You've been listening to A Beautiful Legacy, a short moment of clarity in a world built by remarkable minds. If it inspired you, follow the show and join me again on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Until then, keep noticing the beauty people leave behind.
Beautiful legacy. Every line, every curve leaves a trace of who we were. In the shape of a chair in